Well, we are going to solve and graph combined inequalities and write the answers in interval notation. So here we go. Number 1. We have x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 12, or 9x less than negative 45. And so let's deal with this guy first, and we'll subtract 7 from both sides to isolate x. And 12 minus 7 is 5. Or, and now let's see, for this fellow we'll just divide both sides by 9. And so the 9's divide out here and we get x is less than negative 5. So now let's graph that. And here we are at negative 5, and here we are at 5, and I'll use an open circle at negative 5 and a closed circle at 5 because there's an equal sign associated with the inequality. And let's see, x is less than that, or x is greater than or equal to 5. So we've got it graphed. Now let's use interval notation to state the solution. So we're taking negative infinity to negative 5 parentheses union 5 to infinity. And number 1 is done. Let's do number 2. And so we have negative 3 is less than x minus 1, which is less than 1. And our goal is to get x all by itself between the inequalities. So we'll just add 1 to each interval. We've got 3 intervals here. And so the sum of these two is negative 2. Here the 1's add out, and we have x all by itself, and 1 is 2. So we've done it. We've isolated x between the two inequalities. Now let's graph. Here we are at negative 2 to 2. Open circles because there's no equal sign associated with either inequality. X is all the values in between. And in interval notation, that'll be negative 2 to 2. And notice we're using parentheses. Now, let's do the third one. So here's 3, and we have 2x plus 9 is greater than or equal to 10x plus 1, and 3x minus 2 is less than 7x plus 2. So let's deal with this fellow first. And we'll subtract 9 from both sides. So we get 2x, subtracting 9 from 9, those add out, and we get 10x, and 1 minus 9 is minus 8. Now let's subtract 10x from both sides. And 2x minus 10x is a minus 8x. And subtracting 10x from this side, the 10x's add out, and we just have a minus 8 left. And now we'll divide through by a negative 8. And when we do that, negative 8 divided by negative 8 is 1. We have to flip the inequality because we divided through by a negative. Negative 8 divided by negative 8 is 1. Now, and so this fellow's taken care of. Let's see, for this guy, let's add 2 to both sides. So we get 3x, and adding 2 to this side, the 2's add out. Adding 2 over here, we get 4. Now let's subtract 7x from both sides. So negative 7x plus 3x is going to be a negative 4x. And negative 7x plus 7x, they add out, and we're just left with 4. Now we'll divide both sides by a -4, and -4 divided by -4 is 1, and 1 times x is x, but we've divided through by a negative, so we have to flip the inequality, and -4 divided by -4 is -1. So look, follow this. I'm going to orient these inequalities all to the left, and you'll see why. So if I flip this over, I'll have -1 is less than x. Now if I combine this with this, you'll have -1 less than x. And notice here, x is less than or equal to 1. Hey, we've got a combined inequality. So we'll draw the number line, hash mark at -1, hash mark at 1, open circle here, closed here, you know why, and now everything in between, isn't it? So in interval notation, we have -1 to 1, bracket, parenthesis, and notice, we never leave a single inequality with the variable on the right, but we experimented here, and we could see we could write that as a combined inequality, and so now, of course, the variable's sandwiched in between the two fellows on either side of x. And we're done.